But you guys are definitely my favorite. Just like I'm your favorite teacher, right?
Yeah! Mr. Russell!
Yeah! Wow, look at that. You guys are nice.
Is that going to give you a B on that test?
Oh, I like it. It's trading. Okay, you cannot do this using law of sines. How come?
Don't know any actually.
You need two angles, right? Or you need, let's see, an angle and a side and then another side, right? But we don't have that. If you try and do it, you'll try and do these two, but then what am I going to do? I don't have that angle. Or you'll try and do these two, but wait, what am I going to do? I don't have that side. You're going to try and do these two, what am I going to do? I don't have that angle. Therefore, you cannot use law of sines. I'm just going to say you cannot use LOS. Well, you're going to learn something today that when you have side angle side or side side side, then it's going to be okay to use law of cosines. So that's the big thing we're learning today. All right? So let's find out what it is. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably say, well, what is the law of cosines? Well, I'll tell you. That's what we're doing today. There's the goal. How to use law of cosines to solve a triangle. How to use law of cosines to solve a triangle. And this is 13:6. Well, this happy star will tell you. Law of sines cannot be used. Well, actually, we already talked about that. We're going to use law of cosines for side angle side or side side side. Here's where we learn what it is. And today we're going to do our first proof. All right, so that'll be fun. If you want me to write anything bigger, this is also in Schoology, so you can certainly use those. But if you can't see anything, let me know so I can read it off. Law of cosines says that for triangle ABC, written as you have there on the side, side A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. What do you notice are on the end of that sandwich?
Side and opposite.
Right, and they're both A, right? So if you have the matching side with a matching angle and everything else in between, you've done it correctly. If you have a sandwich here, B and B, everything else in between, you've done it correctly. Sandwich, everything else in between, you've done it correctly. There's no chance for mistakes if you use the right angle and the right side. You can't make a mistake. But memorizing it isn't really that important. I would give it to you. But, you know, it's always nice to think about nice little tricks, how to memorize things. Because then you're quicker. And sometimes when you do ACT or something, you need to be quick. So, why don't I give you another minute to copy that down, and then we'll do the proof. And if you're finished, you should start copying down the triangle that's below. Because we're going to do the proof on that triangle. Okay, so do we all have the above information copied? Okay. Then let's start doing the proof. Now this is our first structured proof, and so you should really try and focus on this one, because if you do not focus and stay engaged on a proof, then you miss a step, then you miss a train of thought in the logic, or sorry, a step in the train of thought for the logic, and therefore you're lost. And then you say, I don't get proofs. But if you focus on every step of the logic, right, in our train of thought, then it should make sense, because that's what proofs are meant to do. It's meant to convince somebody. If you draw that triangle, divide side B up into two pieces after you've dropped an altitude to create two right triangles. You see the two right triangles? I split side B up. I don't know how I split it up, but I can tell you this. I can call this side X, and I can call this side B minus X, right? B minus X. X and B minus X. Well, let's focus on this triangle for a second. You see that it's a right triangle. How can you relate all the sides together of a right triangle? How can you relate all the sides, put it away, all the sides together of a right triangle? How can you relate all the sides together?
Pythagorean theorem.
You got it. Structured, right? Pythagorean theorem. Well, so let's write down what that would be. A squared is equal to B minus X squared plus H squared. Great. But guess what? The law of cosine, you didn't see any X or any H in there, right? So we probably want to get rid of the X's and the H's. I can't do that yet. So maybe I'm going to try something. I'm going to try and expand this. Expand the B minus X. You remember what expand means? And please don't tell me it's B squared minus X squared, right? That's not how you expand things. It's B squared. I have a negative BX and a negative BX. So how many of those negative BXs do I have? 2. So I have 2 negative BXs. And then finally I have a negative X times a negative X, which gives me a positive X squared. What do I still have over here? H squared. Great. Now I see I have a X squared, an H squared, and an X. So that's what I want to try and get rid of. Well, look over here at this triangle. This is a right triangle. I see an X and an H. How can I relate C, X, and H all together? You got it. Pythagorean theorem again. C squared is equal to what?
H squared plus X.
Right? X squared plus H squared. X squared and H squared? Oh, I see that right there. I want to get rid of X's and H's, right? So what should I call this? C squared. So let's rewrite it. B squared minus 2bx plus C squared. Great. Now I only have one more thing to get rid of. X. If anybody can see how I get rid of X, that would be really good. If you can see how you can get rid of X, that would be a really good sign. But you're following it, and you remember trigonometry, and you're seeing things. Look back over here and try and get rid of X somehow. Want a hint? Think back to trig ratios. Think back to trig ratios. Think back to trig ratios. Here's another hint. Look at angle A. Okay. There you go. What would cosine of A give us? would give us x over c. I can solve for x, right? You got it. Very good. X is equal to c cosine of a. Well, now I can replace my x right here. What am I going to replace it with? B squared minus 2bc cosine a plus c squared. Hey, that looks like the law of cosines, right? That is the law of cosines. Just reorganize it. B squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine a. And there you go. You finished your proof. Yep, Molly.
How do you know you cosine?
Well, and that's the thing with proofs. When somebody was trying to develop this, like they didn't know to do it just right off the top of their head. It took time and it took playing around. Let's say I tried to do maybe sine, just using this setup. I'd have sine of a is equal to h over c. Then I can solve for h, but I don't have any h's anywhere, right? Tangent, that would be h over x. Well, then I can solve for x, but then I'll have h, and I haven't gotten rid of anything. So just really with proofs, sometimes you're walking around in the dark, and you just have to feel around, and hopefully, if you play around with it long enough, you'll come to a discovery. That's kind of how proofs go. After a while, you'll get intuition on where to go and what to do, but it takes practice, as I'm sure you saw in geometry. Okay, but you won't be asked to do that, for example, on the test. But it's important to see. So let's focus on what we will be tested on, which is how to problem solve. But yeah, the biggest thing I would tell you in math, and especially in further math when you go down the line, is don't feel discouraged if you're stuck or if you don't see something as fast as somebody else, because it just means that, you know, they got there quicker. It doesn't mean that you won't get there, but you just got to work for it. Right? So, use the given measurements to solve triangle ABC. Round to the nearest tenth. So, first thing we should probably do is draw a triangle. Because I'm not going to give you, for example, on the exam, I'm not going to tell you, use law of cosines, use law of sines. You're going to have to use the information and say, what do I need to use, law of sines or law of cosines? So let's draw a picture. Doesn't matter what your triangle looks like, as long as all the information's in the right place. So for example, A has to be over here, that's 8. B has to be over here, and that's 5. C has to be over here, and that is, I don't know, so I'll call it C. I do know measure of angle C to be 32.2. And now if I just remember the foundations, when I there were two types of problems when I encountered them, I used law of cosines. What were they?
Side, angle, side, 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 side.
You got it. So if you remember side, 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 angle, side, law of cosines, boom, then I know what to do for this problem, right? I need to use law of cosines. So let's set that up. Law of cosines. I'm going to be trying to solve for C, right? So I'm definitely going to have C squared. See if you can fill in the remainder for me, if you remember what it is. C squared equals A squared plus B squared.
Minus 2AB.
You got it. Cosine of. So if you're already remembering that, that's a good thing. 2AB. Input what we know. A squared, and I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to write it down. A squared, that is what? 64. B squared, 25. 2 times 5 times 8, 80. Yep, minus 80 cosine c. I don't know c squared, so I'll keep it there. Here's what some of you are going to do in your calculators, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to add or subtract all these things together, and that's going to be a mistake, right? So only these two do you add together. So that gives me what? 89? Is that right? 89 minus 80 cosine. Oh, I know angle C, don't I? 32.2. Now let's enter this. This looks pretty easy to enter into my calculator. Let's do that and see what we get. Make sure you enter it into your calculator like this. 89 minus 80 times cosine 32.2. If you do 89 minus 80, that's going to give you 9, and then you're going to do times cosine, and you're going to get the wrong answer. You need to enter it in like this. 89 minus 80 times cosine, whatever your angle is. What'd you get? 21.3. And since at the end we're going to be rounding to the nearest 10th, all of our intermediary steps, we should probably round to, pick hundreds or thousands. Either one is fine. I'm going to round to thousands. C squared is 21.305. So that means C is equal to 4.6, and keep it again with the thousands. 4.616. C is equal to 4.616. Great, so we found C. I'm all done, right?
No.
No, we got a little more to do. How am I going to find another angle? Say it again. Yeah, we should probably use law of sines or something, right? At least that's what's jumping out to me. If I want to find an angle, maybe I'll use law of sines. Well, let's set that up. Sine of 32.2 divided by 4.616 equals, which one do you want to solve for, A or B? B? Sure, let's do B. Sine of B divided by 5. Okay, there's only 2 steps. Multiply by 5 and then take sine inverse, right? That's it. So let's see what that would be. Five sine 32.2 divided by 4.616. What am I going to do to that number? I heard it. I'm going to do sine inverse to it. And then what is that going to give me? You got it. Measure of angle B. Notice how I didn't round so things would be more accurate. So if I enter this into my calculator, it's going to be super accurate. So let's enter that in. You got 35.254? I got some mm-hms. So it sounds like that's correct. Let me just double check too. Sine of 32.2 divided by 4.616. Yep, 35.254. Now, should I do the same method again to find the other angle that's missing? No, I should just use. Yep, you got it. Use the triangle sum theorem and say that measure of angle, we still have to find A, right? Still have to find measure of angle A, and that's equal to 180 minus 32.2 minus 35.254. $112.546? Yep. Okay, so I'm not the only one. 112.546. Now, if I'm doing a test, what should I make sure these three angles add up to? 180. Because if they don't, guess what I'm going to mark it? Wrong. Right? So it's going to tell you the degree of accuracy. Like for here, it says round to the nearest tenth. So this I should round to 35.26, or sorry, 35.3. This one I should keep 112.5. And this one is fine where, this one should be 4.6. So you know how to round, right? So you can do that. Great. So now you know how to do it when you have side angle side. But how about the other case? Side, side, side. Yep. So let's try that one together. Actually, you should probably try it on your own. I'm sure you can do it. But I'll give you the setup. And we only have 2 more problems to do today. This one and a word problem. Okay. Side, side, side. Law of cosines. And I'm going to draw myself a dap it. Right? Draw a picture. Now I only have 2 unknowns to find using law of cosines, and that would be 2 angles. And then I can find the third one using triangle sum theorem. So pick which ones you want to do, it doesn't matter. We'll end up at the same answer. You tell me which ones you want to find. A, C. We'll find A and C. A and C. So I'm going to start over here and say A squared is equal to, and I'm going to do one over here. And say C squared is equal to. Oops. And we'll just kind of go through it. But I'm just going to set it up, and I'm sure you can do it. So there's the setup. So when you have side, 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 people are going to make mistakes. Add these 2, subtract them, then divide. Add these 2, subtract them, then divide. Add these 2, subtract them, then divide. Do not do add, subtract, for example. That's wrong. So let me see what we get. Where's my calculator? 64 minus 81 minus 49, negative 66. Negative 66 equals negative 126 cosine A. Then I can say measure of angle A, if you just do a little mental math with me, is going to be cosine inverse of, when I divide negative 66 by negative 126. Yep. And that's the same thing as 66 divided by 126. So that should be measure of angle A. If you're not seeing that, let me know. Yep, Kate,
So
T.
do you just take the like how do you get
Divide by the negative 126, right? And then take cosine inverse of it. And that's what I have right here. Yep. So 2 steps. Divide and then take cosine inverse. I got 58.412. Yep. 58.412. And I showed you this one, so you all tell me what the next one is when you got it. And just shout it out when you have it, so I have something to check. 48.2 for C? All right, thanks, Kate. Minus. So it should be calculating, trying to find out what it is. Yep, 48.189, so 48.19. Did I just see some hands who got that? Okay, looks good. We found those two, so find the third. $73.398. Looks good to me. Thanks there, Molly. Measure of angle B. Roughly 73.398. All right. Is there anything confusing you about these two problems? Side angle side, side side side. Okay, so I take that as a no. So let's do one word problem. One word problem. All right, let's get some other voices in here. Calvin, you look awake. Let's get you in here. Read this one out for us.
If a hiker travels at an average speed of 2.5 miles per hour, how long will it take him to travel from the cave to the waterfall? How much do you need to an hour?
All right, so popcorn to Alex. What are we trying to find? What is our answer going to be? Right, so our answer needs to be talking about, like he said, how long. So our answer is going to be talking about time. So know that. And then one restriction to make sure I entered this answer right on maybe Schoology if it's a quiz. I need to round to the nearest 10. So make sure you read. Rounded to the 10th place. Okay, Do you think you can solve this? Yeah. Find a distance, divide it by the rate, you'll have a time. Find a distance, you're going to need to use distance equals rate times time. Time is equal to distance divided by rate, and you'll have your answer, and then you'll just need to round it. I'll work it out up here, but you should be able to do this now. Setup. If you have any questions about the setup, let me know. As you know, it's not just about copying it down, knowing what they represent. How would that? And if I put that into my calculator, I'll have the right answer for x. So what do you get?
I got 4.17.
Did I do something wrong?
4.17.
Yeah, I got 4.
Oh, and then you take the square root to get 4 point.
Oh, right.
4.179. Yep. Roughly 4.179. They give us units, so make sure you include that. And then let's see, finally, I know my answer from what Alex told us. We need to have time, so I say I'm not done yet, because this is just distance. Time equals distance divided by rate. The rate was 2.5 miles per hour, correct? So what's that? 1.6716? Yep. 1.6716 rounded to the nearest tenth, like Kate did. 1.7. 1.7, make sure you include your units. You got it. Hours, because we're talking about time, right? Hours. Easy enough? If you're confused about any part of this process, let me know, so we can answer it now in class. Any part? Okay, if not, or if you do, you got to be comfortable asking. There's always going to be mistakes and questions in there. So, here's your homework. And cross this out, and cross this out, for a grand total of how many problems? Not a lot.
14.
14. 14 actually, right? This gives you 13, this one gives you 14. Those counting problems are always tricky, I'm telling you.
Where's it?
Well, you have tonight, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so Monday evening. For 14 problems, I think that's fair.
Okay.
All right.
So Russell,
Yeah.
can we go back to another page?
Sure. Let me just give 30 seconds on this one so people can copy it down, and we'll go back. How do you draw a thumbs up? Let's see.
You draw like
Oh, that's good. Thumbs up. How were you gonna say to do it?
I was gonna say just draw like the fingers first and then like as like little circles.
Oh, those little circles
Ovals.
like that. That works too.
That's a little scary.
All right. So going back, everybody have this down?
Yes.
All right. If you needed something from the last page, here it is. All right. There you go. That wasn't too bad. Uh-huh. What's your question? $49, $64, $81, 8 times, here's this here, let's see, 8 times 7 is 56, times 2, 112. This is, let me use my calculator. 49 minus 64 minus 81, negative 96, divided by negative 112. 96 divided by 112. Cosine inverse of my answer should be 31 minus.
Yeah, I did get that.
When are you doing it? Oh, so you've already been.
I got 31 because you guys wrote. I'm gonna do this one.
I
just wrote it down.
So,
I don't know. I'm on
Yes.
Roseville or some other school. I don't know which one yet, though. I was gonna say. Well, I don't think that's pretty good.
We didn't have
I've heard that it's.
okay, so let me calculate it real quick. 64 plus 81 minus 2 times. Oh. What's yours? Here's your this one AB, this one says AC. So start that one. That was the issue. Thanks for bringing it up, though.
Sorry, I left the calculator.
Oh, is this yours?
Yeah.
And you left it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
About the safety package 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I just want to know what I did wrong.
Do you have your iPad?
Yeah.
Sure.